So I'm going to start that right now. Eric's going to go ahead and get started here shortly. Hey, good evening, Tyler. Thanks for throwing something in the chat. Again, make sure everybody that you find where the chat is so you can throw questions in there. Eric, I have made you co-host, so you should have access to whatever you want to see. If you want to run with it, I'll turn myself off here. You're on mute, my friend.
I'll go ahead and get started. First of all, thank you to Craig for letting me lead the session. I sure do appreciate the opportunity to talk to everybody. My name is Eric Comley, and I'm one of the NRS cadre, and I will be taking you all through just a kind of a basic presentation on the basics of foraging. So I'll go ahead and pull that up and share my screen here. Let's see. Uh, right. Let's see. Okay, so the basics of foraging. You know, a lot of times Craig has talked about it a lot of times when he's talked about his experiences, especially on his 30-day trips and whatnot, or 30 days in the wild. The couple of times that he did that and what that looked like to him. And I also want to be very clear that you know it is super important that um, that that's kind of your last resort kind of thing. I don't want it to be that edible plants and medicinal plants are your last resort, but that you're thinking, oh, I'm going on a weekend. I don't need food. I'll just live off the land. That's really a terrible idea, especially depending on the season that we're in or a season that you could be in. So I'll take you through this, and then if you have any questions, like Craig had said, please make sure you put those in the chat, and I'll do my best to run through those and answer those. So some reasons that we forage, first of all, is the connection to nature and understanding the interconnectedness of nature and people, and that's been going on for thousands and thousands of years. Our connection to nature, even when it's dull, like it can be. I talked to Craig about some disheartening things with youth today because I'm a youth development professional. But the connection to nature is so important, and understanding, not only what we understand as contemporary medicine and contemporary food items, but also understanding historical um, food options. With foraging plants, that's equally as important. So being connected to the outdoors, also a sustainable food source and self-sufficiency is another good reason for you to get out and forage. And forage, we'll talk a little bit about the definition of that, but foraging doesn't always have to be that you go out and you actually collect something. If you are a survivalist, a prepper, thrill seeker, even though I put thrill seeker there, I do want to forewarn everybody that, going out with the intention of living off the land, especially as a novice or even as somebody who's moderately out there and doing spending a lot of time in the woods, you want to make sure that that you're extremely cautious and people get themselves in trouble all the time. But that's another reason that people forage is for that survivalist prepper mentality. Also, accessing unique or natural flavors. Nature provides us some fantastic things out there, and we'll talk about those, especially in this spring season that we're in right now. I'm not sure where everybody's from, but here in Kentucky, we're looking at 3,000 different species of plants, and so we're starting to see huge amounts of flowering plants come out right now. So this is a great time, especially if you're in the southeast and working your way up north, for you to get out and start to look for things. And then the availability of food, and then obviously need. And so, if there are things that you need, there's a resource that's out there. It's just where we can look and making the best of the opportunities that we do have. So, establishing the rules is first of all is knowing plants, knowing seasons, and know your area. So the expectation obviously is that late fall and winter is going to be the most difficult time for you to get out and find things. It doesn't mean that we're completely devoid of any kind of any opportunity for medicinal and edible plants, but you should understand that there are seasons where they're going to be a lot more prolific than in those winter seasons. And some of the things that you may be looking for, they may be things that are only around for a limited amount of time. So knowing your seasons are going to be really important. Knowing your plants, this is where spending time in the woods is going to be so important, or spending time in a park, or spending time in your yard, or whatever that's going to look like. But it's really important that you spend the time, you take the time to go through and work through either field guides or keys, or you're out with a professional that's going to know what exactly it is that you're looking at. And, maybe you don't have to always know all of the information about the plant, but at least be able to identify um, and then be able to go back and look at your resources and figure out, does this thing have any medicinal value? Does it have any edible value? What makes it valuable to me outside of an ecological role? And then know your
Hey,
area.
Eric. Quick
Yes.
question that came in because you just mentioned it. I thought I'd throw it in here. Somebody asked, they're not really sure what a key is. What do you mean by take your keys with you?
Okay. So there are what are called dichotomous keys. And essentially, your mind already works this way anyway. We process out things. If I say go to your kitchen, open the drawer, and pull out a spoon, well, I've given you no indication of what kind of spoon. But if I tell you to go to your drawer, go to your kitchen, get in a drawer, and I want you to pull out a spoon that you're going to eat cereal with. Now, unless you're like an impoverished college student or the one that doesn't ever do dishes, then you're generally going to pull out a small spoon to eat cereal with. You're not going to pull out a ladle. You're not going to pull out a big giant stirring spoon. You're not going to pull out a wooden spoon that my grandmother used to spank me with. Any of those things. You're not going to pull out those because you've whittled it down. You understand this is what I'm looking at, or this is what I'm looking for, and you've whittled it down. So dichotomous simply means a dichotomous key simply means that you have two identifiers, and those two identifiers, if you look at a plant, it may ask you a question about if the leaves are rounded. So if you look at the plant, um, so it may say leaves are rounded, leaves are um, more teardrop shaped. So you may look at it and have to look at it. And so if it's teardrop shaped, that takes you to the next thing. And so what it does is it whittles away those characteristics so that you finally get to the point where you're looking at what it is that you look at. And I've got some resources at the end of the presentation that operate as keys. Some of them are very intimidating. So you're keying out those characteristics. But like I said, some are intimidating, some, are very easy to follow along. We'll look at one for woody plants at the end. I didn't put it in the presentation, but I've got several copies, and I'll let you all see those as well. So a dichotomous key is just looking at the characteristics, and then as you figure out, oh, this is the characteristic that fits, moving on to the next thing, moving on to the next thing until you get to a relatively close or absolute identification. So also when you're out and you're foraging, you want to make sure that you're asking permission to be on people's property, and that you also understand local, state, and federal laws about foraging on state or federal property. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that that there are in some cases, obviously trespassing is an issue, but there are cases where you want to make sure that you are following all local laws all the way up to federal laws. One of the rules is applying the third rule to collection or foraging of plants or fungal material. And simply what that means is that if you've got six plants on the ground, collecting two of those is really the maximum. And there's several different thoughts on that, but you want to make sure that you leave a plentiful population so that they can continue to regenerate. This is one of the things that we're seeing that's challenging populations of things like ginseng or yellow root or golden seal. Some of those plants that we not only do we have uses for here in the United States, but we're seeing people forage for those to send them overseas. That's what's creating an issue there is that rather than leave behind two-thirds of that population to continue to regenerate, we're losing those. And so it's to keep a healthy population of those things that we need. So dandelions in your front yard that you don't spray for and you've got 1,000 of, have at it. If you want to take all of them, if we get to a point where we've taken all the dandelions off of planet Earth, we are in a much bigger trouble than just just taking that population away. Also consider outside influences. This is has everything to do with people who spray their yards, where you find things. One of the most common examples is as you drive around in ditches, a lot of time you'll see cattails that are in roadside ditches. And cattails are probably one of the most useful plants that you can get a hold of. They're edible. You can obviously make things out of them. They used to use the flower heads, the brown flower heads, as toothbrushes. I mean, there's a ton of things that they use cattails out of. The problem is, though, is that in a roadside ditch, the amount of chemicals that are being taken up in that plant and gas and antifreeze and all the things that end up out of a car as those non-point source pollutions, they can end up in that plant. So, you want to make sure that you're extremely cautious about where it is that you're collecting, even when you're out in the middle of the woods. We I go out and I'll find things on the ground that I know that I can eat, but I want to make sure that I wash those things. And so you'll see throughout the presentation that I'm trying to say after you wash, because Craig can probably tell you a little bit more about this than I can, but when you're out in the woods, you understand that animals don't really go to the bathroom like we do. We generally find a place that we can go to the bathroom. Most of the time that's inside, but animals don't have that same thought process. So you want to make sure that you wash anything that you're going to be eating or using from outside. And then don't collect species with state or federal level distinctions. And those could be things like endangered plants. And we have several of those that we don't want to use. So those expectations, understand your health limitations. So when you go out to forage, make sure that you're thinking, I'm obviously a bigger person. I'm getting ready to enter my 50s. And when I go out, I want to make sure that I understand my health limitations. If I know that there's a population of something that I want to go and collect, let's say ginseng, which I don't collect ginseng, but if I'm going to go out and collect ginseng, my limitations might be completely different. I may look at something and think, oh, it's 2 miles away, 3 miles away. Yeah, that's a little bit too far, but somebody may be completely interested in going 2, 3, 4, 5 miles away in order to collect or to forage. Work within your limitations. Also prepare accordingly. Craig talks about this all the time. This is probably, and I would, I can't see him right now, so I'm not going to say this to his face, but this is one of the best things that Craig mentioned, or when I started in NRS, is that be able to relay all of the information that I need to let people know where it is that I'm going, when they can expect me back, and to be able to take things with me that are going to help me in a situation rather than just be out and lost and unable to help myself. So when you're doing all of these things, you should follow when you're out foraging, especially if you're going to travel distances. So these are some of the tools to take with you: a backpack or a satchel. Fixed blade knife is always great. Small, compact, foldable saw, a hand lens, which is what you see there on the right. I understand that you would look like the biggest nerd in the world out in the middle of the woods with a hand lens up against your eye, looking at something. But there's a lot that you can use a hand lens for so that you can determine species differences in certain plants. And if that may be the difference in, whether it's something tastes great, whether it does not taste great. So you want to make sure that you use a hand lens or take a magnifying glass out there at the minimum. Whatever it is, you're probably going to look ridiculous if anybody walks up and sees you using one. Gloves in the event that you're going to be working around things that could be uncomfortable for you. That's poison ivy, poison sumac. If you're going to be working around things with thorns or prickles or any of those kinds of things, then you want to make sure that you prepare accordingly. A basket or a canvas bag, or you just want to have an open bag. And the reason that is because plants break down so much and so quickly, is that you don't want to put something in a grocery bag and tie it up, and then when you get back to the car, it's completely rotten. You've wasted your time, you've wasted the plant. So take something that's going to go out with you, that's going to be open air, so that you can collect and it still has that circulation of air over it.
Hey, Eric,
Field I'm sorry, go ahead.
jumping in. This is Craig. We had this question a little bit earlier, but since you brought it up, the question was, are there any plants that would help protect us against poison ivy, oak, sumac, stuff of that nature?
Protect you against, no, but can provide some level of relief if you do get it. Yes, I mean there's things like a touch me not, which there's a few forms of it in Kentucky. We have a yellow and orange. It's also called jewelweed. Those can act as relief and can provide some limited um, protection, but nothing that's really going to keep those things off of you. If you get into poison ivy or poison sumac, really the thing to do is just going to be able to get to a water source and be able to wipe that away. And you always want to make sure that you wipe in a single direction. If you do get into poison ivy, is like if you get it on your knee, you want to wipe down towards your ankle. You don't want to scrub back and forth because that oil that's in that urushiol can just spread that way. So you want to make sure that you wipe in a single direction and not go back and forth with it. Also taking with you field guides and cell phone. Cell phones, they're the bane of the existence of most people that want to be outside, but they're also fantastic resources for taking pictures. And if you set it up right, you can do macro lenses that are attached to that so that you can take really fine, detailed pictures of things that you might need a little bit more help with identification. So a cell phone can be very useful in addition to all the other things that they can do for you. Field guides and keys, and then a journal or a writing utensil, colored pencils if you've got them are always fantastic to take because I strongly encourage that you journal. And that can be journaling like in a notebook or journaling on your phone if you do that. But whatever it is you take personal notes of the things that you see. You can mark GPS locations if you want to do that. But there's a lot of benefit in journaling and writing and sketching and drawing. All of those things are they're fantastic opportunities for you to be a little bit more focused on what it is that you're looking at. And then all items you'll need to be comfortable while you're outside. So these are a few definitions of things that a lot of times when we talk about medicinal plants, especially, these are a few definitions of what you may use them for. Tinctures, concentrated liquids that generally we think about that when we think about soaking in alcohol and using other solvents, and those may be things that you're putting on wounds or skin care or other things that you can take care of an issue, a skin related issue with. Astringents are basically going to tighten up something. So we think about like tightening up skin or tightening up If you drink something, it could tighten up your stomach in different ways, but tightening or toning up the bodies. And then poultice is something that like a salve or something that you're going to put on it. So put on your skin to as kind of a relief. We think about like ointments and things like that as a as a poultice, if you will. But so these are just a few of the definitions if we're thinking about medicinal plants as we go through. And then I hope you are reading the little pictures and color or pictures and identifiers that are down there as well. Some of the pictures I just took today. So what's out there? So exploring your local, which is your yard, neighborhood, farm, familiar places. These are the places that you're going to travel to the most. And so this is the best time of the year if you're going out to really pay attention to what exactly is out there in those local places that you're going to be. Exploring your local green spaces, so that could be parks or wildlife management areas, but you still want them to be places where you frequent uh, pretty often uh, because I may know that there's a population of something that exists in Zion National Park, but that's in Utah, and I don't have access to that. So look at your local parks, your local wildlife management areas. Preserves would be in there too, but preserves are preserves for a specific reason. So I would prefer, and I think that all of the Kentucky Nature Preserves Commission would prefer that you not get on a preserve and start taking things off of it. The plants that you see there, the one on the left is wild bergamot. It's has a ton of different medicinal uses. And you can turn that into teas. This is where bee balm comes from. It's the same plant. And so I would encourage you to, that's one that if you're going to grow that in a garden, to absolutely do that. And that's the most common version of it there, is the one that you see on the left. It's called wild bergamot, Bergamot. And then the one on the right is yellow or pallid jewelweed, and that's the one I was talking about earlier. And that's one that you can crack open the stem and wipe on or rub on areas. It can, like I said, provide some limited protection, but it does provide relief in a variety of things, not only poison ivy, but also if you get into a mess of like stinging nettle, it does a good job of relieving some of the aggravation of stinging nettle out of you as well. But if you find stinging nettle, you can collect some of it and make teas out of it, and it's absolutely delicious. Just use gloves. So establishing your areas. So the picture on the left is my neighborhood in Garrett County. And so all of the little red dots are all of the different species of trees that I have on my 1.85 acres of property in Garrett County. And so this is if CalTopo, if you don't use that, it's a great resource for you to be able to keep up with GPS locations of different things that you find. You can do straight line distances to that. So CalTopo is a great app to put on your phone. It does have some cost associated with it, but it's a great resource to be able to keep notes and put things on. I think you can, and Craig, you may be able to answer this. I think you can put pictures on there now as well, but is that right? I'm
You
not sure.
can. We use it quite often in man tracking to put evidence into the track line when we're recording it.
Okay. So you can put pictures in there so that, that makes it even better. You can, do all the GPS things on your phone and, just in a normal photo app. But this provides a lot of additional resources to it. Dandelion that's there, probably the most common plant that we see in yards, but you can do just about anything. When you get those wild salads at a big fancy restaurant, there's a large portion of that is going to be dandelion greens. So, but dandelions have a variety of uses. Just an incredible plant, and we spend a ton of money trying to get rid of them. But they're just absolutely fantastic for a lot of things, wines and teas and all kinds of things that you can do with it. So this is that you can also do this. on the Caltopo app, which is essentially create a key for you. I did take out some valuable information with all of my the datum points with you know if you were trying to track me, I took those off. So but you can leave all of that information on there if you were building a map for it. So getting into some of the herbaceous plants or what we're looking at.
Hey, Eric,
Yeah, go
can I
ahead.
throw something in real quick?
Yeah, sure.
One of the ways that I use that, everybody, and I'm so glad that Eric shared this because I very rarely hear plants instructors talking about this. Like, for example, there's certain plants that I like, certain mushrooms that I like, and they tend to grow in the same area over and over. But I spend a lot of time in lots of different places. So I will save in folders in Caltopo where my chicken of the woods are, or where I have found different particular plants that I don't find often and stuff of the nature. So Caltopo is a great way that, hey, you come in, you start, and this is one way I use social media to my benefit. I've got friends all over the country, like most of us do, and you'll start seeing people seeing certain plants and mushrooms and stuff of that nature in the South, which means they're coming to us soon. That's when I pull up my folder, get it ready, and when I start seeing where people are picking up morels or something in Kentucky, I'll pull up that folder where I know morels. I picked them up before, then I can access those points and go find those more readily. So it works really well for that. Thanks for sharing that
Yeah.
about Caltopo, Eric. That's a really good resource.
Yeah, it's a great app, and I encourage I encourage everybody to if even if it's not Caltopo, which I encourage that one, it's there are additional resources out there even within your own photo app. You can do some note taking and whatnot. So getting into herbaceous plants, these are plants that die back to the ground during late fall and winter season. That's typically when herbaceous plants, but as seasons transition, things will die back to the ground even in late spring. We have right now is our time for like a lot of ephemeral plants, and ephemeral just means short-lived. And so you'll have things that'll last anywhere between 3 days and 2 weeks, and then they're gone, or at least you're not seeing the vegetative part of it or the floral part of it. So this is the time when we see herbaceous plants in the winter, late fall in the winter is when they really die back, but they die back as seasons end for them individually as well. They produce a variety of seed types and have a variety of different distributions as well, whether it's aerial seeds, whether it's things that stick to you or stick to animals, whatever it might be, but there's a variety of seed types within those herbaceous plants. They're typically soft stemmed with green stems, but banana trees, or what we call banana trees, are also herbaceous plants. They're actually not trees. So when you see those giant plants that have bananas hanging off of them, those aren't trees, but a huge herbaceous plant. So, but they usually have a soft stem, usually a green stem, but there are some that do not go through photosynthetic processes, and so they don't have any greenery on them. And there's some that we use, like ghost pipe is one, Monotropa uniflora, which is really common in the late summer. We use that. There's a ton of medicinal resource or a ton of medicinal things that we do with ghost pipe. Edible parts can include leaves, flowers, buds, roots, and fruit. And the same, and this is what I want everybody also to be careful with, is that the same plant can be extremely poisonous but still have an edible portion. Mayapple, there's chemicals that are used in mayapple for small cell carcinoma, for treatments for that. And so it is an extremely toxic plant. The entire plant is toxic except for the fruit that's on it. So there's a fruit that comes in on it, and if you can catch it late in the season, it's also one of the favorite foods of eastern box turtles. But if you can catch it late in the season, it is really delicious and has kind of a sour apple flavor to it. But you don't want to eat any of the rest of it because it can be very toxic. Pokeweed or poke is the same way. And a lot of people say, oh, this is how you prepare it. You have to boil it, you know, 14 times, and then you have to lay it out in the sun, and then you have to do all these things. With poke, I just find that it's one of those plants that I'm not committed enough to go through all of the trouble to try and get it to where it's edible. So I strongly discourage that people get that try and eat pokeweed. Some people have, and some people love it. Um, but it's one of those things that I generally discourage people from trying to get into because it's very it's very particular. So here's a few plants that are going to be that are coming out right now. Stone crop has these thick, succulent-like leaves that you see there, and it usually grows on like a an outcrop of some kind, generally on a rock ledge, and the leaves have kind of a lemony taste to them. They're generally, they're plentiful, so it's something that you can eat right off the ground. But once again, please make sure that if you're going to try that, wash it off. At least wash it off if you've got a bottle of water. Just run some water over it and try and get off anything that might be on it. Um, but it's really delicious, and you can eat just about any sedum. We have some that grow on roadsides. One that's called Widow's Cross. It has a pink flower on it, and you can eat that one as well. But and usually on roadsides, it becomes a little bit more dangerous because of chemicals. Purple wood sorrel. People talk about wood sorrel. There's a yellow wood sorrel. The reason I was never good at baseball is because I spent most of my little league season eating wood sorrel from outside of the dugout. It has what's called oxalic acid in it, which is like a sour apple, gives you a sour apple flavor to it, and these are absolutely delicious. The purple wood sorrel has a purple back on the back side of it, very common in the woodlands, and you can pick them up and eat them off the ground. Once again, you should wash it, but it has a nice sour apple flavor, and then you can also eat the roots as well. They have a kind of a tanginess to them. Passion flower, this is one you'll find in the late summer. And obviously the odd looking flower that you see there, that's going to be, if you're looking for passion flower, look for the weird looking flower. And there's a lot of religious things that go along with that flower, but it does produce a fruit on it. It's called maypop, and that maypop, once it gets a little bit wrinkly, they're just delicious. I mean, you can peel them apart and just suck the stuff out of them, and they are just absolutely wonderful. You can do all kinds of things with them, pies, jams. There's all kinds of things that you can make with them, but maypop they are absolutely delicious.
Hey, Eric,
Yes.
are these your photos too?
Yeah, these are my photos.
These are awesome, man.
So
That's
thanks.
that passion flower is fantastic. Go back. I'm gonna look at that again. That is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, it's a weird looking flower. We have two different species in Kentucky. This is the purple passion flower, and then there's also a yellow passion flower, which is much smaller, and it's not rare, but it's infrequent in Kentucky. I know of a couple of spots. I'll try and get pictures of it this year, but yeah, really kind of a unique flower, unique plant to see. Spring Beauty, I talk about this one all the time. Spring Beauty you'll probably see yards covered in it right now. It's one of the earlier wildflowers or spring flowers that we have coming up. You can eat the corms. You need to boil them or bake them. If you don't and you eat them raw, they can have kind of a radishy heat, like sting your mouth. But if you boil or bake them, they have a potato-like flavor to them. And then also the leaves can be eaten as well. But all of these things should be washed as well. So woody plants, trunk branches and the stems will survive through the winter, but they usually, depending on the type of tree, speaking only of Kentucky, we have about 120 different species of trees in Kentucky. And Craig, I looked it up on Idaho, and I think they actually have like 11 species of trees, but still not the 120. So,
Losers.
yeah, I know. Get
Welcome to
better.
Kentucky, everybody. If you're not from here, you need to come here.
Yeah, just come on in.
Come on, join us.
Yeah. So leaves may or may not be present. Deciduous, you all have heard that term probably since elementary school, means that the leaves fall off. And then the conifer, I use evergreen, but you can have deciduous conifers and you can also have evergreen conifers. And then there's a variety of things. Oaks, you can eat the acorns. Basswoods, you can eat the buds. They're bursting right now. Beautiful, bright red buds on basswoods. Beech, they have an edible fruit. Pawpaw is an edible fruit. We call it a Kentucky banana because anything you find in Kentucky is a Kentucky whatever. But it's pawpaws are delicious, but you have to eat them when they look like a turd. I mean, they have to look brown and disgusting in order for them to be edible. And they're almost like eating a banana, like banana pudding on a stick. It's really delicious. Hickories have edible fruit. Sassafras with the roots, although we talked about this at Camp Hero. There's research out there that says that they, can be carcinogenic. So do your own research on everything that you are going to go out there and try. And then evergreens, pine cones, white pine needles, and eastern red cedar cones. They look like berries, but they are cones. We use those for flavoring, um, and a variety of other things as well.
Hey, Eric, while you're still here, would you care to
Yeah.
back up and look at those slides that have the flowers on them and give us a rough idea of the size of those?
Okay. So, yeah. So, Spring Beauty, probably no more than 3 inches tall. The flower that you're looking at probably right there is maybe half inch to 3/4 of an inch across. Um, but they'll stand out quite a bit. Uh, Passion flower is maybe 3.5 inches, 4 inches across. They can be very large for a flower. And the maypop fruit is about the size of like stack two big grapes on top of each other, and that's how big a maypop is. Um, the purple wood sorrel, they're tiny. The flower, will stand out to you, but the leaves are really what you're trying to get to, and you can see those kind of down in the left-hand corner there with that purple back that's on the back of them. They're probably about the size of a quarter. And then sedum is also very small and found on cliff lines, but when you see it, if you recognize what a succulent looks like with those kind of thick, heavy leaves, it'll be something that'll stand out to you. But they'll come in clumps, so it won't be that you're looking at like one individual plant, but generally you're looking at probably 15 or 20 plants. It'll be a pretty healthy clump that you can eat out of. So mushrooms and fungi. So uh, you you have to absolutely identify. Okay, it's yeah with any kind of fungi or mushrooms, you know they can be extremely dangerous, and so to go out, you need to make sure that you're using one of those dichotomous keys or some sort of field guide that's going to give you a definite description of what it is that you're looking at, or go out professionals and experts in the field, check with local universities if they have a mycologist that's there, somebody that's going to be looking at fungi because going wrong with funguses is can be really bad. When you have some that are, there's like a death cap mushroom, things like oh, destroying angel is one. When you have names like that, then you need to make sure that you are absolutely correct before you eat mushrooms you put anything or you put them on anything. So stay away from social media groups. I know that there's a ton of those out there, and you can get really confused in those. So I would stay away from that. I would stay away from any social media group for foraging and things like that, unless you absolutely trust one of the people that are in there, and you've established some sort of rapport with them as well. Uh, and then limit the fungus or fungi that you are foraging to reduce incorrect IDs. Craig talked about chicken of the woods, lion's mane, morels, chanterelles. Learn what those look like. And then, if you find one, work with that one, that in particular, because you want to make sure that you're getting that correct identification uh, before you um, before you make a mistake. Craig, are there any questions in there?
There's a few little ones, Eric, but I've been anything that I don't feel comfortable answering, I'm bringing up to you, and I'm answering the other ones. And
Okay.
some comments too, like Samantha just said, she would love to get into foraging, and I just said the same thing. It Mushrooms are dangerous. We need to be with someone and
Yeah.
not go about it on our own for
Yeah.
mushrooms. Maybe plants, but not mushrooms. I'm 100% behind you. Basically, I'm saying you're speaking with wisdom. I've got a couple of questions at the end, Eric, but that's it.
Okay, great. So your resources, any resource that you have should be as local as possible. So if you're going to a local bookstore or anything like that, try and find something that's going to be as local as possible. Finding a mushrooms, and I've even got these books like Mushrooms of North America or, edible plants of North America. Yeah, you're going to find things that are going to be local in there, but the more local you can get, the more opportunity you are to be able to go out and see the things that you want to see and forage for the things that you want to forage for. Also, creating your own resources as well. That's why journaling is so important, and taking notes on everything that you see. And you don't have to have the quote right terms in there. And by right terms, everybody thinks, oh, I need to know what a lenticel is. I need to know what, all of these different terms are, these botanical terms that we use, and you don't. What's going to make sense to you? Can you adequately describe what it is that you're looking at? And that's all that matters. If you're foraging for yourself or foraging for your family, can you appropriately identify and be able to list parts? If you notice that it's got hairs on it, if it has hairs on the stem, then say, oh, it's got really hairy stems. They look like Craig Caudle's forearms. I don't know, but whatever it is, come up with the appropriate terms that you're going to be able to work with. And if you want to learn the botanical terms, it makes it a lot easier if you're looking at materials. But work within what you feel the most comfortable with, but be detailed. Um, Technology is available, use it. If there's a notes app or chat GPT or any of those that you can talk into, and it can transcribe what it is that you're looking at, and then you put pictures with that, that would be even great. And then always printing out physical copies so that you're not relying on technology, so that you're like, oh, I'm going to go out and look for morels. I have pictures of morels on my phone. I've taken notes, and then you get out there and your phone dies. So make sure that you take physical copies of the things that you're looking at. So these are some additional resources. This is my journal. These drawings are not very good. I never claimed to be an artist, but they help me as I go out. These are some of my earlier drawings when I was really getting into like starting to learn some of the terms and whatnot. But that doesn't mean the drawings are good. But they don't have to be good. I know what it is when I'm looking at it, and that's what matters to you the most as well. Some additional resources: Foraging Kentucky on the left. That's a
Hey,
really
Eric,
fantastic book. It's pretty new, just came out.
Eric, let me throw something in there
Yeah.
on the sketching. everybody. We're huge fans of sketching at Nature Reliance School for tracks, plants, trees, all that good stuff. There's incredible value and a lot of really good scientific research that Eric just said it, but he didn't say it like this. That when you sketch and draw things, it helps imprint that into your brain, which helps you remember them later. So it might seem like it's all artsy or whatever. You don't have to be an artist. Just do your best, and it will definitely force you to look at the plant, look at the stem, whatever it might be, in a way that requires you to pick up details that you wouldn't otherwise do unless you were sketching it, illustrating it, drawing it as best you can. So I highly recommend sketching things whenever you can.
Yeah, the more time you take with it, the more that you're going to focus on the details of it. So it's really really valuable. Yeah, we spent some time on that in nature immersion, and I think it's a valuable resource for anybody that comes to that class and anything that you're going to do beyond that, foraging, whatever it might be. Sketching is a wonderful resource. So additional resources, like I said, Foraging Kentucky just came out. Southeast Foraging on the right is a really good book as well. Um, and so, these are just some resources that you can pick up. Sam Thayer's Field Guide to Edible Wild Plants. Uh, Let me see, where is it? So that's the cover of it, but this is the thickness of it. Okay. So it has, I mean, it's a really fantastic resource. I mean, we're looking at like 725 pages with just within that one, but it is dense. So if you're thinking, oh, I'll hike in, 3 or 4 miles, you're going to hike in with a book that's going to weigh a couple of pounds on you. So if you're looking to go light, that could be challenging, but I would definitely get that as a resource. Southeast Medicinal Plants, it's a limited resource with just 106 plants in there, but it is still a pretty solid book and gives you a lot of information about the different things that you can do, the different ways that you can process plants medicinally. The one on the left is actually, I think, a research project, but you can't get the book version of it online, but you can, or you can't get the book version of it anymore, but you can get that guide to medicinal plants of Appalachia online, I think, like a link to it. And then the Plant Life of Kentucky, that one is that one is another beast of a book. So this is it. This was done by Ron Jones, professor emeritus at EKU, and this one is a key. So if you are trying to learn how to key out things, um, this is what it's going to look like. Let me just open up. So this is what it's going to look like. It's going to take you through those couplets that we talked about to try and get to what it is that you're looking at. So trifolium, which are your clovers, you could go through all of that, and there's dozens of clovers in here. So um, you can key out just about any plant that you can think of at Kentucky from Kentucky, but no pictures, only drawings in there. So if you are a person that relies on pictures, that may not be the book for you. Great resource, but not definitely not a field guide.
Eric.
North American mushrooms, I just railed on that one,
Hey,
but it
Eric.
has, yeah.
So Daniel was asking about if you know anything specific to Ohio, or is Kentucky books similar enough, you think?
I think that you're going to get similar enough. The biggest difference that you're going to get in Ohio is, remember that during our last ice age period, that glaciation basically went all the way down to the Ohio River. So you are going to get some different habitat types within Ohio that are going to be a lot different than in Kentucky. So with that kind of where you're going to get like more bogs and things like that, um, more wet areas. You're going to get some different plants in there. So I can look up some resources and and give them to Craig, and maybe he can attach them to the membership stuff, or at least attach them to this presentation so that he can put them on there just to give you an idea of what's out there, Daniel.
Yeah, that's no problem. Eric, if you can get those to me, Daniel, what I'll do when I upload this course to the membership, there's always area down below to add in links and stuff. I'll have the links that Eric send me and put them in there for you. So it'll probably be a week or so before I get this uploaded, but it'll be there. Great question, Daniel. Thanks. And thank you, Eric.
You're welcome. Common poisonous plants and mushrooms. If you're going to know what's good for you, please also know what's bad for you. That's a good book, a good resource to look at some of the more common things that are out there that can do you some harm as well. That way you can check them against each other. And then trees and shrubs of Kentucky. I think everybody, if you're going to look at trees and shrubs, look at your own state. But everybody should have a trees and shrubs of blank state, whatever it is. This is a great resource for Kentucky, but make sure that you do have some sort of trees and shrubs book for your own individual area. So that's that's all of the presentation that I've got for you. And so sorry that we went so long there. I apologize, but just
No, don't apologize, man. There's one
trying to be
question
thorough.
that I saved for last because it didn't fit right in the middle of your presentation, Eric. But Cheryl asked the question, are there conservancy groups trying to repopulate these essential plants?
Um, no, well, I mean, things like there's groups that are doing work with like American chestnut, trying to bring populations of that back. So if you're looking at woody plants, I think that there's probably not groups that are looking to bring populations of those plants back. We're probably trying to limit populations of invasive plants so that naturally those populations start to re replant themselves. But we bring in things like kudzu, which is a good example. Then kudzu is edible to us. It's edible to a lot of other things. Garlic mustard, which is a huge invasive plant, but it's edible to us. So, I don't think that there are conservancy groups that are putting plants back in. Ginseng, yes, they're trying to protect those because we see a lot of people go out and just eliminate huge populations of ginseng, and golden seal and those kinds of things. So I don't think that there are, but I could do a little bit more research on that as well.
Eric, I made a request for other questions and we haven't gotten any more. And I believe I answered several of all of them except the few that and I apologize, interrupted you for and asked you to answer them. The only one, and I'll throw it in here, is one person asked me this question privately, but I think she meant it to send it to the group. Um, and Eric, correct me, but there's not any plants that can help us with ticks.
No.
I put a resource in the chat there, you all, on our guide to ticks. There's a couple interviews with some really good experts in there, including a really good entomologist in there. So that is there as a resource. We had the question, what in-person classes do you offer that covers this topic? I'll answer that question, Eric. Nature immersion's coming up, and we do that in the field. Basically, what we're doing tonight, we do that with trees, we do it with plants, we do it with just forestry in general. We look at tracks, we do macro or aquatic macro invertebrates. Did I say that right?
You said it exactly right.
Phew, man, that's impressive. I'm so good. I can say big words now. But we do all of that in what we refer to as nature immersion, which is a weekend of this stuff. And much like you saw Eric tonight, he's just laid back, cool dude, but he's incredibly intelligent. Um, he lets me do the tracking stuff because that's my jam, but he does most of it. Davy Black is usually there. Davy Black is an aquatics biologist for the state of Kentucky. He's usually there showing us fish and doing all that stuff. So, yeah, we'd love to have you come to that. I know there's at least two, maybe three people in this class tonight that are coming to that. And what is that, Eric? 3 or 4 weeks now?
Yeah,
It's coming up
second
though.
weekend of May.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Coming up in about a month then. Thanks, Leah. I guess we're going to see you, Leah, in for nature immersion. Appreciate it, Eric. Is what she's saying in the chat. Awesome
Oh, it's great.
presentation, Eric. Thank you for putting this together.
Uh, I see a question about carnivorous plants.
Hmm.
Uh, what's what do you want to know about carnivorous plants?
Go ahead, Cheryl. Lay it out there. Can you
Oh,
eat
can
them?
you eat them?
Wow. Interesting. That's a good question. I don't know.
That is a good question.
Huh.
I'm not really sure. I wouldn't imagine that you would be able to because of the digestive fluids that they have. Um, yeah, they are protected, absolutely. In Kentucky, we don't. The only ones that we have are what are called sundews, and they're tiny. I mean, they're smaller than a dime. But but I couldn't imagine that they would be good because of the digestive fluids that they use in order to actually digest the insects that they're eating. So yeah, so we don't have pitcher plants, but I'm not really sure. I can't imagine that you would want to eat them, but I'll look that up too, Craig. That's a great question. I've never really thought about it because I that's yeah, it's a good question.
Sorry, that was me typing. Is there another question? Very tiny, she said. Thanks. Cheryl did. Any other questions, you all? Dave, thanks, Dave. Dave's one of the instructor cadre. He put a link up just above Cheryl's comment about them being tiny to the nature immersion class. So check that out if this topic interests you. And keep in mind, you all in the membership, this is crazy. You all in the membership get $100 off a class. So basically, an annual membership in the online school gets you is free if you take a class. So please take advantage of that. Use your membership discount to get into an in-person class. We'd love it. Samantha said nature immersion is phenomenal. I'll give you your $20 after class tonight. Samantha, thank you for saying that. No, it is a good class. I love it. It's one of them that I love to go to because I don't do most of the teaching. I get to be a student in that one right along with everybody else. I love it. Yes, Tyler. Yes. I admit 100% I am not the best businessman in the world. If you pay $100 to get into this online membership, I will give you $100 off to an in-person class for one. Oh, I see what you're saying. Per class or one class? One class, bro. Dude, come on. I'm not that stupid. Come on, Tyler. Man, you trying to get blood out of a turnip. I don't have that much money to give away. Oh, that's a good one, Tyler. Tyler, are you the Tyler that's coming to man tracking? Tyler, firefighter Tyler. Oh gosh, this is going to be great. Then I can see you're a smart aleck. I love you kind of people. Any other questions? And land nav. Okay, look at Tyler. Tyler, you might get a free hat or something. We'll see. Any other questions, you all, about anything for Eric?
I did a real quick Google search and found out that Nepenthes, which is a type of pitcher plant, they're actually a vine. It says that they use them to prepare dishes like sticky rice in some Southeast Asian cultures. So, but it says many are not edible. So, oh, okay.
China. Oh, really? Interesting. That's cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can keep, especially things that are root based. So I mean, tis the season for the next couple of months for dandelions, and so dandelion roots, like go ahead and pull those up. Spring beauties that you're looking at now, um, are another one. I mean, I keep harping on those, but they're just readily available right now, and you can pull them up and dry them out, and they're a little bit better. There's absolutely a ton of things. So anything that you're looking at as far as roots are concerned, those would be the things that you can pull up and you can dry out and will keep a lot longer. If you can get them in like a vacuum sealed jar or something like that, they will keep a lot better. Or you can leave them out and let them hang and continue to dry, so that you don't get any moisture issues and get any rot issues with them. But yeah, anything with roots. Yeah. Yeah, Trevor. I mean, dandelions, if you look at it, I mean, we fight the fight against dandelions as a cult, as a society or a culture in the United States, and I'm not sure why. I mean, I have a book here that's like the weeds of the United States, and then when I picked it up and I looked up dandelion just to see what it said, it talked about all of the edible and medicinal properties of it. So it was like, yeah, here's a whole book about weeds, and then dandelions. It was like, I mean, everything, but dandelions in particular. It was like, yeah, dandelion is a real weed, but these are all the amazing things that you can do with it. No, no, I'd probably avoid anything that's growing near a leach field. Um, just me. So, I mean, you could probably boil out any issues that you might have there, but you might be boiling out some of the flavor and some of the nutrients that go along with those things as well. Yeah, exactly.
All right, guys and gals, is there, let's take one more question if we have one. If not, we'll sign her off. Who's got the last question? Bad red
Red
bud
bud
looks
look.
like. I was
There's
eating
not
red
many.
buds today, Jason. I made a video of eating red buds today.
Yeah, you can all of those pea plant things like that. You can eat just about every one of those. They're delicious. My favorite plant to eat is the wood sorrel. Like I said, I mean, I would have been a lot better baseball player. I would have been a third baseman like Craig Caudill had I eaten less wood sorrel in my baseball career. But my dad, he was my coach, and he'd look over and see me eating wood sorrel, and he just knew, hey, this kid's not going to make it. So wood sorrel with that sour taste. There's also one that is, and I'll have to look up what it is, but when you put it in your back and crush it up in your molars and then put it on your tongue, it has a like a really hot, peppery taste to it. Um,
Really? What is that?
yeah. I'll have to look it up.
Oh, you got to find that for me,
It
man. I don't think I've ever had that.
completely blanked on it, but it usually grows knotweed or not. It's a knotweed, but it's not Japanese knotweed. Um,
Okay.
and yeah, I'll see if I can find some that usually grows around water. But yeah, it has little white flowers, and when you crush it up in your molars and put it on your tongue, it'll absolutely light you on fire. So I'll do that occasionally to kids. So this is a good time. But for me to eat, wood sorrel is my favorite.
Yep.
Or sourwood leaves. They're really good.
I think that's it, you all. So, yeah, Jason, thank you, man. Thanks for being here, Jason. It's always good to
Yeah, thanks everybody.
hear and see
Appreciate it.
and read from you all. So that's been it for foraging, edible medicinal plants, whatever we want to call this. I never know exactly what to call it, but looking for stuff outside, eating weeds, whatever we're going to call it. So, daggone, Eric, thank you so much. All right, who is it? Cheryl said marsh pepper knitweed.
Knotweed, marsh pepper for knotweed.
Not weed. Okay,
Yep.
marsh pepper knotweed. Is that what you were talking about? That's hot.
Yep, that's it. That's the one.
We've got to figure out. I've got to find that. Is it? Do we have it here?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, I've got to find that.
Yeah, it's a weed
Thanks,
too.
Cheryl,
It's
for
not
throwing that in
it's
there.
it's rough. It can get rough on that tongue. So
All right, that's it, you all. So here's what you can expect. I took some notes, and there's a couple of resources that Eric's going to get for us. I'll put that in your online membership when I get this uploaded again. I'm prepping to leave to go to the woods for. I've got class for 3 days, but I usually go to the woods for a day or two before to get things ready. So it'll probably get put up next week, and I'll have those from Eric, and I'll include that in your membership. Don't forget, particularly for those that are brand new to the membership, every one of these webinars are in the interviews and webinars portal. So you can go there and see the ones with IFACS, survival mindset, introduction to hunting, and I think that's it for now. Yeah, that would be it for now. So those are in there, and we've got one coming each month. So look it up. Hey, let me see what that is before you all leave so I can tell you. I don't know what the next one is. Let me look it up real quick, you all, so I can tell you before we leave, and this will be the last thing we do. Hmm. I don't know. I can't find it on my calendar. Anyway, we got another one coming up the first Tuesday of every month. So that'll be May 6th. So we'll check it out. All right. Anything else? We're done. Thank you all, everybody. If you have any questions, always shoot me a message, info@naturereliance.org. If it needs to be answered by Eric, I'll ask him and then I'll get that back to you. Thanks again, Eric. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, thank you, Craig. Appreciate it.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
Show me clear. I don't know what I'm doing.
You're still on, Margie. We can hear you. I'm going to stop the recording, guys.